Hello and welcome back to Lalan's IAS. I am Hiranand Sakya, and let us conclude this topic, which has gone on for quite a bit. So, as I referred to in our last class, Pakistan looks at Kashmir as its unfinished business. So, Pakistan's vision or approach towards Kashmir is the unfinished business of what? It is the unfinished business of partition. Partition happened in 1947, and for them, partition has not concluded. The issue of Kashmir is yet to be resolved for them. So, for them, for Pakistan, partition has not ended. But what is India's view in this regard? How does India view this matter? So, India's view is that partition ended in 47 itself, ended in 47. We moved on, and so should you, humans. So be mindful of this fact that Pakistan has this illusion or delusional with respect to Kashmir. They think that the issue of partition is yet to be sorted. Now, again, let us follow in a timeline approach. That way, we will try to explore how Pakistan has made foreign policy in a way you can say its in India relation or its approach towards India has been the pivot of its foreign policy as well as its domestic policy, because that way they can divert attention. Now, look at what happened recently at Kokarna. It can be seen as a diversion strategy of ISI because they are facing many economic uncertainties within their country. There are challenges, political challenges to the existing ruling dispensation, but it is can be viewed by, according to experts, this can be viewed as a diversion strategy. So they do it from time to time. If they have nothing better to do, then they try to poke India this way or that. So how did it develop? So moving right back to the 1950s, what did we see? Actually, in this development, I would like to mention you certain things, certain aspects of global uh, politics, like world order in post-World War II scenario was basically bipolar. Bipolar means there was USA on one pole and USSR on the other pole. So the creation of Pakistan as a staging ground for USA to tackle the southward movement of USSR was a very significant development in the mid 1950s. So Pakistan was envisioned by policymakers in USA even before partition as a possible uh, staging ground or possible area through which they can control the affairs in Middle East better, or the whole Middle East, Central Asia, as well as Southeast. So all of these factors should also be taken into consideration. So there are factors at play which goes beyond what appears in a cursory. If you look it in a cursory, okay. So in 50s, we saw what we saw the military collaboration between Pakistan and USA. So there were many military pacts like Baghdad Pact, Santo. So what was the net result? The net result was that Pakistan armed forces got strengthened. In fact, at that time, technology-wise, they were better equipped than Indian armed forces. India was in a backfoot. India was you can say uh, in the early decade, early years post-independence, Pakistan became a more significant global player than India. As you know, India was part of NAM, so non-aligned movement naturally made appeared or posited India as a neutral player in global affairs. But Pakistan was very clear; it wanted to leverage its geography. As I said earlier, if somebody asks you what is Pakistan's biggest strength, then your one-word answer would be its geography. The way, the position that it is located in the world makes it an area which you cannot ignore. Look at the map properly, and then you will understand why the location of Pakistan makes it always, it will always make Pakistan an ally of any world power. Now, earlier it was USA, now it is China in a way. So, and Pakistan has no qualms in being in the pockets of others. India is also nicely located in South Asia, but India seeks to maintain its strategic autonomy. India doesn't want to be in anybody's pocket. So that is why we refuse to be a plaything in the hands of big powers. But Pakistan has no qualms about it. Their generals are, you can say, how rich are their generals? You cannot imagine. So in 50s, Pakistan became an ally, de facto ally of USA, and that way its armed forces got strengthened. So that way they got encouraged in the 60s to launch a full-fledged military campaign to take Kashmir by force. Full-fledged military campaign to take Kashmir by force. And in their policy establishment, they had this idea that half of the work had already been completed in 47, so let's complete the other half. So they were quite positive about it. But they had to face defeats, or they had to face challenges, because 65 war, although they presumed that after 62 war with China, India would be quite weak to defend itself. And that way they launched the 65 war, but it was actually the end of 65 war is very, you can say, there is no clear winner. It is the best way to way to explain it is it was a stalemate. Stalemate is the term used in chess, where the king is unable to move. The situation in 65 war was also like a stalemate. So it was a draw, you can say, in a way. So nobody was a clear winner, but still you can say because Pakistan was the aggressor and Pakistan could not achieve its stated objective of taking Kashmir by force, you can say Pakistan was at the losing end. Then came the 70s. So by now, our partnership with the Soviet was quite strong. Defense partnership was quite strong. Indian Army also after the scourge of 1962, after the heavy defeat of 1962 in China, we modernized our armed forces, and armed forces became quite strong enough to repulse any such motivated invasions, motivated intent of Pakistan. So 70s, what happened? Early 70s, that means 1971 itself, the dismemberment of Pakistan. Pakistan got partitioned. East Pakistan became Bangladesh. So it was something from which they are yet to recover. So Pakistan in the decade of 1970s was only recuperating from this defeat. And then in the middle of this, General Jia came. General Jia became the head of Kashmir, head of Pakistan, and he actually Pakistan's army was quite professional. Still, Pakistani top echelons of the army are quite professional, but after the coming of General Jia, it got radical element within the defense forces, and it slowly turned its attention towards Islamic countries in the Arab world, and it also turned itself towards the West, towards USA, to make itself useful in the ongoing Cold War conflict. So, by 1979, when USSR invaded, what did USSR do? USSR invaded Afghanistan. So in this, USA fought a proxy war through the Mujahideens. And where were these Mujahideens created? Along the Afpak border, heavily aided by Pakistani army and ISI. So having proven so after this development, say in the 1980s, having proven itself that the strategy of a proxy war with USSR through militants, through Mujahideens, had been a successful strategy. And be mindful of the fact that by that time it also had a nuclear umbrella. So, emboldened by this development, it tried to mimic this strategy in which India, that is which Kashmir. So in 80s, we saw the renewed or the big insurgency movements. Late 80s, 89, there was big disturbances in Kashmir, as well as in Punjab. Also, we saw the Khalistani problem emerging, and this was in the direct fuel was given through ISI, and they were trying to mimic the strategy that they succeeded in Afghanistan. So such developments were happening, and the Indian government, Indian forces were strong enough, resilient enough to resist these changes. In fact, during the prime ministership of P.V. Narasimha Rao, insurgency in Kashmir was brutally crushed. There was a strong repression from the government of India, and by this time, by 1990s, we saw something called pan-Islamization of insurgency. Means a person working as an insurgent or a mujahideen in Kashmir, or for that matter in any place, need not be a local or even from Pakistan. He could be an insurgent from or a mujahideen from any place of the Islamic world. So pan-Islamization, like considering the movement became borderless. There were no single defined territorial area where these people were clustered or located. They were spread throughout the Islamic world. And aided by such development, and you can well imagine in 90s we saw that IC 814 Pakistan. Taliban was in power in 90s, and the instability that was created in that region, and that actually helped the terrorists, the Mujahideens, to have a safe haven in a proper political state of Afghanistan. So that way, again, Pakistan got emboldened. This has been the story. They slowly feel that they are getting strengthened. They give a punch to India, then they fall back. Again, they recuperate. They give a punch to India. That is how the thing has been going on. So after this, in 1999, what did we see? The limited war in Kargil. Kargil intrusion. Again, it failed. So after that, when like Musharraf came to power, Musharraf was in the general in 1999. Then Musharraf came to power. That time, insurgency in Kashmir was totally done by Pakistani jihadis. So it was Pakistan-controlled insurgency in um, Kashmir. So that time, this cross-border terrorism or cross-border insurgency. That term was very much in use. Then 2001 July, there was the summit in Agra, much hyped summit in Agra, but again it failed. It failed, didn't yield any result. In fact, a leader like I.K. Gujral, who happened to be the Prime Minister of India for a very short time in 1990s, 96, if to be precise. So even he said the attitude of Musharraf was like that of a victor coming to the conquered land. So I.K. Gujral is no warmonger. He is considered as a peacenik, but even he felt that it was inappropriate. So that way, how Pakistan behaved, how aggressive they were. So that way, their intentions were not clean, and that was reflected in the approach of their premier, that is Musharraf. And so Agra summit failed. Then later that year, in September, 9/11 happened. So 9/11, what did it do? Actually, it again brought Pakistan to the global front. So Pakistan's leverage returned again. Pakistan's leverage returned again. So till late 90s, early 2001, Pakistan was standing to be, or the USA establishment started looking at them as a old nuisance ally, somebody who has turned to be a rogue kind of state. So now, after 9/11, it has again become a stalwart ally because USA needed Pakistan to invade Afghanistan. So because of the increased role, or you can say prominency of Pakistan, it resulted in increased bloodshed in Kashmir. Bloodshed in Kashmir actually peaked in this period. In fact, in October 2001, there was this blast, the first suicide bombing in Kashmir. The state legislative assembly blast happened. And you can well imagine how much the Americans were dependent on Pakistan that they even refused to directly condemn this attack. The statement coming from then Secretary of Defense, Colin Powell, was that it was an attack on an Indian government facility. So it was insensitive to say the least. Then in 13th December 2001, what happened? Parliament attack on the Parliament of India. So you can very well create a graph of the events and how the things are. There is a adding similarity to the developments. Pakistan get emboldened, their role in world affairs increases, and that gives them the hope, the false hope, actually, of taking Kashmir by force. So they create disturbances in Kashmir. So these things happen. So right now, how did India react? India started Operation Parakram. So it was a near war scenario. There was massive movement of troops, mass mobilization, and war. The environment was such that war was about to start at any moment. So again, Pakistan got, you can say, scared would be a very tough word to say, but yeah, you can say so. Pakistan got nervy about India's development, and so after this, from say 2002 to 2008, there was this long peace process with Musharraf. From India's side, we saw two prime ministers during this period, Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Manmohan Singh. So there was this long period. That time we saw many bilateral cricket tournaments also happened. Indian team went to Pakistan. Pakistan team also came to India. So it felt like peace was finally returning to India-Pakistan relations. It was like some new light was coming in, but regrettably, Pakistan was only buying time like they always do. So, as I said earlier, like you keep pace with the Pakistan used to keep pace with the peacemaking effort, and the undercurrent would be the asymmetric warfare. So that there was always this was always going on. In fact, it is said that General Zia said, like after the events of 71, when Pakistan was dismembered, they felt like they were very sure they were not like in the late 70s. They felt that they could not take Kashmir by force. So they had this strategy of bleeding India by 1,000 cuts. They wanted to pinprick India to submission. So this asymmetric warfare was going on. There were attacks in this period also. There were train bombings, besides routine grenade blast, this or that in Kashmir. So these things were happening, but no big scale event like say parliament attack happened in 2001 or something like that hadn't happened. So that way it was a period of relative peace, but Pakistan was only buying time. Buying time for what? 2008 Mumbai. So again, Mumbai massacre brought the strategy of Pakistan to the light. Now you can actually see the trend of how these things are going on. You can actually understand the psyche behind all these things. Pakistani psyche behind this. They were just buying time. And 2008 again, Mumbai massacre happened. Again, near war scenario. Near war scenario, we didn't mobilize. Actually, there was this term used, strategic restraint, because there was belief that if a civilian government is in control in Pakistan, then it can create a create the space for peace in Pakistan. There will be stakeholders who will try to improve the peace dividend, but similar such assumptions were quite appeared to be quite naive if we should look at it now. So 2010s, in the 2010 also similar pattern continued. There will be a thaw, then it will be followed by a kick in India's chin. Like 2010 events like Gurdaspur, Pathankot, Pulwama. So all this portrays to this Pakistan strategy of leading India by 1,000 cuts, or the asymmetric warfare that they are trying to do. Okay, so now what has been India's response? If we try to analyze India's response, it can be divided under 4 heads. Number one is the direct counter-insurgency operations that is going on in Kashmir. Like the event we saw on Kokana, that was also some counter-insurgency operation. Then there was a localized fight back. Localized fight back means proper war, but it was localized to Kargil. So we're referring to the Kargil war. Okay, localized fight back, 1999. It didn't spill over to other borders, because we have a huge stretch of Pakistan, India-Pakistan border in Gujarat, Rajasthan, Punjab, but the war on 99 was localized to Kargil. Then another strategy is the coercive diplomacy, which is very much visible in the actions of current External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. So coercive diplomacy, actually post the parliament attack of 2001, we tried to take down Pakistan at international forums in UN Security Council or UN General Assembly meetings. We tried to push this idea that Pakistan is the base, Pakistan is supporting terrorists, Pakistan is encouraging cross-border infiltration, Pakistan is providing safe havens to terrorists. So Pakistan is a rogue state. Such an agenda was pushed by India to, what was the purpose? To pressurize Pakistan and to isolate Pakistan and to make it difficult for Western powers to keep supporting or taking help of Pakistan in their global agenda. So this coercive diplomacy is also one of the strategies of India's response. And then fourthly, as I referred to briefly, the idea of strategic restraint. Okay. So why strategic Kashmir? This is mainly because of two things. Because, as I said, the war is a asymmetric war that Pakistan is fighting. So that way they have the what is called as the deniable subversion. That means they can deny that they have done it because it is done by some other non-state actors, according to them. Although it is, India has given proof that these are ably aided by people based in Pakistan. But the plausible deniability is there for them. So that way, if India attacks Pakistan after a terrorist attack, then there are uh, policy makers in India who believe that it will actually make this ground reality more tough because it will make India appear as an aggressor. But this is something which is very, you can say, not right now. We can see the futility of this approach because we have evidence, technical evidence, um, to support the fact that there is a direct link of these non-state actors with Pakistani Afghanistan. And secondly, the nuclear balance post 1998, both the countries are nuclear powers. So Pakistan has this policy of Pakistan do not have no first use policy like India. So Pakistan says that even under they have something called strategic forces or strategic nuclear weapons. So even for localized aggression from India, they can retaliate with nuclear weapons. So all these things meant that India exercised this policy of strategic restraint. India felt that it can aggravate or make the situation out of control, and there was always this belief that if the right people come to power in Pakistan, then it can yield positive results. So, and this was one of the policies. But right now, this policy is not something that is in vogue, or it is not being followed, or rightfully we are taking a very assertive stance through policies like surgical strikes, or we are doing surgical strike that is directly in contravention of this strategy. So the, if you recall, you can recall Balakot. What happened in Balakot? We went inside Pakistan occupied Kashmir and bombed their terrorist facilities. So it actually caught the bluff of Pakistan that they will respond with nuclear. Their nuclear bluff was caught. It was felt that they might retaliate with nuclear weapons, but they didn't. So surgical strikes actually caught the nuclear bluff of Pakistan, and so right now we are moving more towards an assertive um, policy towards Pakistan. But the basic idea is that the military men who control Pakistan and the religious fanatics that they have nurtured, they very well know that if there is peace with India, then their time is up. So it is actually not a like there are certain there are interests in Pakistan whose continued sustenance is dependent upon the continued conflict with India. So this also is an aspect to the conflict, but we cannot keep on waiting and taking hits till we find people who are having the who wants peace or who has interest in peace with India. Right now, there are people, the ruling dispensation or all those people in Pakistan have their interest not in peace with India, but in conflict with India. Their survival is dependent on continued strife with India. But that way, the initiative has always been with Pakistan. The initiative was with Pakistan, and their strategy of the Jia doctrine, which is called bleeding India with thousand cuts, was working. So, as I said briefly, after the 65 misadventure, they actually gave up hope of taking Kashmir by force. For them, they wanted something like a, you can say, a face saver. So they wanted to conclude, like as they say that Kashmir is the unfinished business of partition, so they wanted to conclude with something to show to their domestic constituency, to show their usefulness. But the events of 5th August 2019, actually, Modi government finished that business. How? Modi government finished that business because for the first time since 1947, Pakistan doesn't have the initiative. India has shut down the doors of negotiation on the status of Kashmir. So Pakistan is now out of the equation. So since we are saying that all the changes has been made by India because it is our territory, we have asserted our territorial sovereignty for that position. So there is no question of involving Pakistan in settling of this dispute, and it is well established fact world over. No country is now complaining about India's stance. So it is an accepted fact globally also. So that way, now for the first time, post 5th August 2019, Pakistan doesn't have the initiative in Kashmir. So all this, you have to appreciate these facts on the ground, and this is bringing real changes to Kashmir. And the hypocrisy has to end. Hypocrisy has to end because see, among Kashmiris also there are people, vested interests, who are going for, like, they are trying to, they do not have a sustained interest of peace or welfare of the people in mind. They are going for power aspirations. There are people who believe that continued sustenance of them is more important, and for that, even if peace is delayed, that is not a problem. So basically, if you say on the one hand you swear by the Article 370, which is part of Constitution of India. So better you read it from Article 1. Why start from 370? So that is the idea. And from the part of Government of India also, or for the part of the establishment, government establishment, we should look forward to, or we should quickly move towards restoration of statehood so that we can gain the trust of the people. Political activity should be brought back, restore statehood, constitutional rights of Jammu and Kashmir people as equal and fellow citizens of India. These things should be strived for and brought in reality as fast as possible so that it results into complete integration, or like obviously it is completely integrated, but integration not only in terms of political integration but also in terms of heart and minds. So that is how we can conclude the topic on Kashmir. And lastly, with regard to Pakistan, the only way forward that we can think is that, of course, we should always keep the channels open for talks and negotiation, because ultimately debate, discussion is the only way for finding permanent solution rather than the barrel of the gun. But at the same time, we should recall to something that a doctrine that was very popular in the Cold War times, in the times of Ronald Reagan. What he says is the doctrine of trust but verify. So whenever we are dealing with Pakistan, we should, no doubt, we should trust the process, but verify at the same time. If they happen to say that we are not sheltering terrorists we are not sheltering terrorists, we should trust them, but we have to verify that fact. So keeping the channels open for discussions, but at the same time keeping the security establishment in total alert so that they can deal with any eventuality. So it has to be a holistic approach with both security dimension as well as diplomatic channels open. That is the only way to have possibility of peace with Kashmir. Again, peace with Pakistan. But we should be mindful of the fact that there are limitations to how we can influence Pakistan's choices. So right now, even in this scenario of economic struggle. There are interests in Pakistan who want to divert attention. There are interests in Pakistan who very well know this fact that their time is in power is dependent on problems with India. So if peace with India comes, then their time will be good. So ultimately, it has to be a people's movement in Pakistan, but there are limitations on the part of India. So till that time comes, we should obviously wait for that, but we should be alert to tackle any security threat that can come from us. So with that, I conclude this topic on Kashmir, as well as a brief overview on India-Pakistan's relation with respect to Kashmir. I hope it has been useful to you, and you can make use of it in your upcoming interview or for any exams that you happen to hear. Thank you.